Oh, at some point I hit mute on this fucking thing. Can you hear me now? If so, this is the most unprofessional I've ever been on these things. Accept everything just the way it is. I'm going to guess it's unmuted now because it's no longer blinking at me. Don't know when that happened. So I'm going to guess it was muted the whole time. Just speak English? No, because I'm Japanese and I name my business a Japanese name, and I'm inspired heavily by a Japanese guy, well, dead Japanese guy, so a corpse more like. So no, that's why people like me. I'm endearing as fuck this way. I'm good, so thank Christ. If you all can hear that, don't mind it. Around where I live, people look for any excuse to launch off fireworks. Uh, they launch off fireworks for Labor Day around here. They launch them off for Memorial Day, and they launch them off for Arbor Day, because any reason to fire off fireworks in this neck of the woods, they take. So, well, shit. Now I have to start over. For this week's Musashi Monday. Just a heads up, I was called a racist and a homophobe. Man, they just need to look at some of our private texts, and that won't be, at least homophobe won't be on there. I can't testify to racist or not. At least not against Asians. Anyways, be detached from desire your whole life long. And then I discovered that Mr. Alexander Bennett here has a very different translation to that same collection of writings. And he says, I succumb not to greed for the duration of my life. I wrote it right there for everyone. So that got me thinking about the value of training with people who are different and learning from people who are different. I'm sure many who watch my stuff are familiar with my friend Sonny Puzikas and the fact that he is a crazy Russian guy who does things extremely differently than, well, mainstream training approaches. And so, but I would strongly recommend to anybody that you go train with that guy, not because he's better than anybody else, but necessarily because he thinks and applies things differently. He has a different approach. This isn't a new phrase for the guy. It's something I borrowed from James Yeager back when he was talking about the crazy Russian asshole. And so if for a lot of people, they only want to train one way. I only wish to train, I don't know, you pick it. I only want to train attack response. All right. You're missing out on lots of stuff, namely a different way to say the exact same thing. And so, whoops. Man, there I go. Professional and all that. I'm not. Nothing about me is professional. It was a passing thing I heard. I shot the threat until it stopped versus I shot the threat until it was unwilling or unable. And I don't know how to spell unable, apparently. That's great. Oh, boy. Again, I claim nothing but professionalism. I'd be upset that I didn't get a defiant dick pic either. I put mine on my bread box. That's where mine went. Anyways, just thinking about that phrasing is enough to change minds. I shot the threat till it stopped, or I shot the threat until it was unwilling or unable to continue the fight. Stops where? How stops how? And it brought me to my previous commentary against competition shooters, and not all competition shooters. I don't think I needed to say that, but I did anyways. But that some of these cats out there have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort learning that specific skill set, and the skill set of shooting fast and accurately. And sometimes they do it at the same time. Sometimes I do it at the same time as well. There's no guarantees on that. But um, I did learn that there is value to that. It's not all there is, but there is value to learning a different way and a different approach to doing things. Uh, Anytime I've ever uh, communicated with my friend Andrew with combat art training, we've always had slight disagreements, nothing out of the over the top or out of the ordinary, but just enough to say, well, that's definitely a way to think about things, not the way I thought about things. And so it led me deeper down. So I continued down this path about, oh, I gotta hold my lip. People's need to comment nowadays. My suspicion is it's just because people don't want to learn a different way to do things. They don't want to fess up to the fact that they may or may not have invested an awful lot of time that wasn't necessarily needed to be done. And that's the whole point I was getting at originally with 3 different translations for the same fucking book. You also find the same issue with the Bible. A lot of Bible scripture, if you go from, I don't know, the King James version to the Catholic version to all the various different versions that have been written, you're going to get pretty different stories, different interpretations, different meanings behind the scriptures, just because they used slightly different language. Wording is slightly different. Um, you can hear from one instructor reload, or you can hear from another instructor load again. I don't know. It was just something that caught my mind. I went off on a tangent on that, and it led me more so to this statement. Oh shit. Continuing with that professionalism. Jeez, Lou. I don't know what the point of hitting save is if it's not going to save. Oh. It led me to this phrase. In the same way, a lantern cannot give direction, it only illuminates the way forward. And that is the key to instruction and finding instructors. They are not the path, they are not a direction that you should follow. They can only instruct you, they can give you information. It's up to you what you do or do not take. And sometimes it's the way that they present said information that makes a difference. I've trained with John Farnham twice now. And if you haven't trained with John Farnham, you're wrong like dick cancer, and you need to fix that problem really soon. Like he needs to be your next class if you need training or you want more training. John Farnham needs to be next on your list because the way he talks, the way he communicates, a lot of the same information that I've heard from Student of the Gun, Sonny Pazikis, Tactical Response, a lot of that information, the way John delivers it, it's going to impact your life in ways you didn't expect it to. And that's because he's been, first of all, he's what, 90 years old ish, something like that. He's been doing this instructor thing for a very long time. He has quite the vocabulary behind him. And so he's gained. So if we stick with the lantern allegory here, he's become a very bright light. Um, he's definitely one of my favorite instructors, and I would rank him in terms of of ability to instruct. I would say John Farnham is number one. He's the number one best instructor out there. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. Um, and if you disagree with me, well, I'm going to guess it's because you've never trained with John Farnham. So there. um, but no, there are things he teaches, the way he presents his information, the way he, so to speak, illuminates the path, or or his given path, that resonates well with people. Versus some other instructors who maybe, I would say, don't illuminate necessarily as so much as they, uh, well, darken. Anytime you're dealing with an instructor that's more invested in their own ego than they are in you as the student, it's always going to be a darkened path. And if the instructor spends way more time trash talking other instructors than they do teaching, that's not a very bright path to walk down. So that's the value of training with other instructors. I understand we all have our favorites. Typically it's the first guy you train with. I know a lot of people, their first uh, professional instruction was, say, TAC Response. They've been around for a while. They've trained a lot of people. That doesn't mean that they're the best instructors out there. That just means that they were your first. It's like, oh man, it was the best class I've ever taken. How many classes have you taken? Well, the one. Well, then, yeah, it's probably going to be the best class you've ever taken because it was the first class you've ever taken. You should go try another one with a different instructor, like John or Paul. I know it sounds biblical, but that's their names, John and Paul. Paul Markle, if you haven't trained with him, you should. He's got a way that he teaches that's very engaging. You know, and even though the specified techniques, if you will, may be similar, it's the delivery and the way they say it that you maybe didn't pay attention the first time it was said to you. But the second time it was said to you in the slightly different vernacular, now suddenly it resonates, and now suddenly you care. Now suddenly you're paying attention. Um, well, John, drowning people is always an option. I Sometimes it takes a while. That's all I have to say till the bubbles stop, and that's that. Um, so yeah, that was the big thing. That was my whole point. Is I saw Mr. Bennett's translation of the Dokudo, and I've seen the normal translation that people see of the Dokudo. Oh, you're gonna watch me on your TV? Well, that's a terrible use of a TV, but go for it. um, the most people are familiar with the generic version of the Dokudo, or I'm sorry, of the Book of Five Rings. But I recently procured. Oh, fuck! Where's my camera? There it is. Mr. Kaufman's translation. And boy, howdy, it's like reading a whole new fucking book. Kind of disappointed that it took me this long to find this third translation. Because unfortunately, Japanese is an overly complicated language that doesn't need to be that way, but depending on what you're trying to say and how you're trying to communicate it, put it to you this way, there's about 4 ways of saying sir in Japanese. And so it stands to bear that there might be multiple translations of one singular fucking book. So thankfully, Mr. Kaufman does not have a third translation of the Dokudo in that shit. So I don't have to fucking study that forever. I just have the 2 versions. I'm pretty happy about that. Ooh, look at me, 4 viewers. Never had so many. Not on this. So yeah, that was the big thing, and got my mind turning, got the gears working. I did some write-ups on it. That and listening to, and if you guys haven't heard it, Super Dave Harrington's interview with Sonny on his live stream. I believe it's up on Sonny's YouTube. I strongly recommend you listen to that. For the most part, you're not going to hear a lot of Sonny. So if you've already heard Sonny to death, that's great. Go listen to Super Dave. Uh, but a lot of the things that Super Dave said, I had heard from Sonny, but suddenly it's sitting differently. And it's just because Super Dave said the exact same thing, but different. It's kind of like if I say, that's fantastic, Eric. I can't believe it. Uh, um, lost my train of thought. Fantastic. Um, if someone heard the last thing I said and wants to comment what the last thing I said was, while I scroll through my notes over here, then put them up here on the computer because, well, that's would have been smart because then I wouldn't have to stare at the ground. Anyways, a lot of the stuff that I've seen, Super Dave said that is stuff that I've heard from Sonny, but for some reason it's just sitting with me different and sitting with me better. And yeah, you would say, well, I want to take the class from the one instructor, and then I want to take the advanced class from from another instructor, or from that same instructor. I would tell you that, um, whereas that's all well and good, you should make a point of it to interact with a different instructor at some point in your training career. Again, it's not enough to just learn the one way. It's it's important to learn many ways. There's many ways to reload a rifle. Absolutely. John Farnham, Super Dave, Sonny to an extent, if he watches this. Uh, Paul Markle has a terrific radio show that, sometimes you'll just hear it hits differently. You know, that's why I like to take, when I take classes, I have notebooks that are just filled with notes. And a lot of the time it's just the same fucking thing that the the last three classes I took, they said, shoot them in the center mass. Okay, shoot them in the center mass. And then it will be some other instructor will say, uh, make your shots land in, I don't know, solar plexus. All right, solar plexus. And another instructor will say, make sure that they all land within, I don't know, the A zone or whatever. And they start zoning it out. Or I'm not entirely sure what the USPSA category is. I call it the chest, and I call it the pelvis, and I call it the face. When you're in my classes, that's all I ever call it. It's like, shoot him in the chest. I know it's a broad target. That's not a whole lot of wrong answers there. Shoot him in the lungs. He can't breathe. But for each class, each student, that's going to resonate differently. Those three different ways of saying the exact same fucking thing is going to resonate completely differently. Reload, load again, go charge your magazines. I had never heard charge your magazines until I want to say it was Jay Gibson had said it on a video. And I was like, well, technically you are, that is charging the magazine. You're loading up the spring. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Biomechanical action versus, what was it? Sights are a confirmation of proper biomechanical alignment. That's something I had heard from, not from Super Dave exactly, though it is credited to Super Dave. I heard it from a friend of mine who heard it from Super Dave. And then I heard Super Dave say it again. And I was like, there's some merit to that. And I've heard Sonny say it in similar things 1,000 times, but for some reason when Super Dave said it, and I'm like, yes, now it makes sense to me. So, that's the whole point of this live stream. And the original pointation, come on now, mouse, was the difference of this translation. Be detached from desire your whole life long versus I succumb not to greed for the duration of my life. This is two different translations of the exact same sentence. So, whatever this looks like in Japanese kanji, these are the two translations for that one singular sentence. I suspect there might be more translations. Please don't send them to me. I'm tired of studying translations of the same fucking words. So that's what got this all going, was just, if we look at be detached from your desire your whole life long, the word desire means wishing or wanting. This is true, John. Um, and that's more of this is desire is wishing or wanting. So be detached from wishing or wanting your whole life long. And the words of Musashi is just fucking do it. Don't wish, don't want, just do. There is no wishing, there is no wanting. Just fucking do it. Versus I succumb not to greed for the duration of my life. Again, it's the same sentence in Japanese kanji, but for some reason, when we translate it to American English, we get these two translations. So the question becomes, well, which one? I don't know. Depends on your mental space. Really, that's all there is to it. Uh, and that's why training with multiple different instructors is of such value, because your mental space tends to be different depending on which instructor you're with. You know, you may have had a death in the family a week before class, or 2 weeks, I don't know, 3 months, there we go. And so it might be weighing on you. So the way the instructor speaks may hit different. The instructor themselves may be different, maybe, or some time passes, you have some things happen, and then you think back on it, you go through your notes, and now you have different mental headspace, and now you're reading it different. Now you have more uh, a more bellicose mindset behind what's written, and that changes an awful lot of things too, doesn't it? An emotional headspace also messes with how we receive and interpret information. This is part of why road rage is such a fucking issue, is because people are very emotional, and so you're already angry. You add your anger to likely this other guy's fucking anger. Now it's just two angry people. The first one to calm the fuck down wins. Uh, but again, this information uh, being different depending on your emotional headspace. Just drinking water. Gotta hydrate. We finally have sunny days here in the Pacific Northwest, although it rained this morning, but now it's hot. Couldn't tell you. Um, even things like activator words. And if you don't know what an activator word, you're probably going to know it best as fight, right? And you're on the line. You've just been instructed what the drill is. Now it's fight, or it'll be start. Fight, kill, Rumpelstiltskin. I don't know, activator word, go. A lot of times I'll see threat. That word alone, I think I relearn, or at least better absorb it on the ride home when I have time to digest it. Yes, decompression time is extremely valuable. Decompression time is the best time you can have after a class. It's why driving is great, especially if you have long stretches of interstate where there's nobody else to interact with except maybe some music if you put it on. Excuse me. But going back to activator words, just those words can alter the way we perceive information as well. I tend to lean away from verbal. I'm sorry. No, verbs are correct. Verbs that are singular in meaning. Threat. The fuck does that mean? Define threat, right? And the reason why is because as a civilian, I can't necessarily always utilize lethal force on everything. A threat to me can mean a lot of shit. Like an angry dude with a fist that I can't shoot is a threat. Uh, Cars are also a threat frequently. I don't have the justification to use carte blanche action against people. So I prefer get to work, go to work, start. You know, if we want the Japanese word for start, it's hajime, Hagima, hajime. Sorry, give you my best Japanese accent. Hajime. There you go. That means start. So there's I prefer those because I don't necessarily want you to have an emotional reaction while you're doing these drills because I kind of the goal is to take emotion out of it. I need you to be objective about what you're doing. So if I don't need you to make interpretations about an angry person on the side of the road. I need you to be objective about this, or the word articulable, which is something else I've heard from Super Dave and from Sunny. And again, it hits differently depending on the person you listen to. But when I hear twice from two completely different men, your actions need to be articulable. I tend to take that a little seriously because, well, hold on, they're not the same guy. Uh, Chances are they didn't learn from the same place, they didn't learn from the same person. So when I see it happen twice, it's kind of an alignment that says I should probably pay attention to that phrase. And so articulable is an important phrase in training, something that we often forget about. But being able to articulate when, where, how, when, where, how, what, and why is kind of a necessity if you think about it. Imagine yourself in the criminal court case. Who'd you shoot? I don't know. What'd you shoot? I don't know. Where'd you shoot? I don't know. When'd you shoot? I don't know. Why? I don't know. I think we can all agree that we're not going to be free men for long if I don't know is the only answer we give. Uh, I would tell you that the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, and the three criteria, ability, opportunity, and intent, kind of all have to be filled out in between individual trigger presses. Yeah? Is he still a threat? Yes. 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 It's kind of like that. This whole wee, and then how many times you shoot him? I don't know. I think 4. You shot him 15 times. Oh no. I don't think that's a super grand way to do your training. And again, that's just the value of training with different people or learning from other people. When we look at information from, say, Clint Smith, as John Thornton pointed out, said, shoot him in the crotch. It's a crass way to put it, but it's nonetheless accurate. Pelvic girdle, crotch, you know, depending on your audience, they may not have never have heard of a pelvic girdle or pelvic cradle. I don't know which one it is. I've heard both. Uh, but if I say shoot him in the crotch, pretty much everybody knows that. If I say shoot him in the chest, everybody knows that. I can sound smart by saying shoot him in the central cavity, the rib cage. I could sound super smart by saying shoot him in the C1, C2 vertebrae. Sure, I can say these things, but do you understand them? Have I translated what's in my head appropriately for you? And how many ways can I properly translate this? For a couple of my classes, Stabbos and Stubbos, and BBB, bedroom bedroom bedside bullshit, which I will be teaching shortly after the muster. So if you're interested in that class, it will be at the muster. Sign up is currently through Facebook Messenger. Just write me and say I would like a spot. And if you're in Pennsylvania, pay money and you'll have a spot. But I have a separate segment for each of those classes on my write-ups that has the same sentence written 5 times in 5 different ways. And I did that so that when I look at it, and depending on how I'm teaching and who I'm teaching, maybe more bellicose language is necessary versus passive language is necessary. right? Uh, the number of profanities. I summoned the Sir. Who's the Sir? I have no idea who the Sir is. Yeah, I'll find out sooner or later. Uh, but the number of profanities can turn off a lot of people that you're teaching. I had a few students early on when I started this that did not care for shoot this fucker in the face. Uh, it can turn people right off right away, just the use of profanity. So I went back in and I reconstrued some of it. Now, yes, I'm not going to apologize for profanities or using cuss words or curse words, whichever. But I am going to be more conscious of it depending on my audience. Jay, I summoned Jay Gibson. That's awesome. He has said a lot of really interesting things that I have not on this phone, but on a notepad. I have notes from Jay. Basically, I have various notepads. At this point, it's just people's names on the tops of them. And I just write down things that they say that trigger thought process. I don't know where his notebook is. It's not next to me because I didn't bring it, but I got the John Farnham notebook. I got the Paul Markle notebook. I got the Jay Gibson notebook. I got the Super Dave notebook. So it's kind of, and then sometimes I'll hear like with Super Dave and Sonny talking about articulable action. I go back, I open it up. Oh shit, there it is, and oh there it is. Probably should pay attention to that. um, Valuable information is clearly being disseminated right now, and I should write it down doubly because I've already heard it once before, but a totally different dude saying it, so it's kind of important. Um, so yeah, that's that's the premise of this whole video is just this translation versus this translation, this guy's way of saying it. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I won't say anything, but I do take. I do have one for Christian. Uh, it's just called Green Force Tactical. I think I wrote it down before I knew you worked there. Um, uh, and it's about kydex and holsters and such. So, and now that I know, I may have added you to some of that notes from John. just as you know, as I get information that I find important comes, I write it down. That way, I don't forget. My wife's going to kill me when she finds this pile of notebooks I have in my office. Not this room, a different room. I had an instructor belittle me, and I checked out until further down the path. Yep, every instructor. This is why it's so important to train with different dudes. Not only are you going to learn something different, as we all know, the crazy Russian guy does crazy Russian things, and he has his way of doing things. Does it work 100% of the time? Absolutely fucking not. Does it work for everybody? Even less, no. But he has a way of teaching that some people resonate well with. I never met James, but in his videos that I've seen of him teaching, his stuff resonated with people as well. You should train with a lot of different individuals. Gary, I don't know how he teaches or what he teaches. I would love to learn what he teaches by meeting him at the muster, and if he's got a class available, I'll probably take it. Andrew Smersek, great dude. Love talking to him on the phone. We talk for hours about teaching and instruction, and most recently we were talking about fucking IQ and individuals and how that alters how one teaches. When you have low IQ individuals, their ability to imagine threats is a little bit harder for them to do. So you keep it to the literal, and they understand that a little bit better. The verbal, it's the oral, the written, and the tactile learning methods. So, there's a shit ton of ways to learn the same information, and I strongly recommend you do. I like to tell a story about a certain instructor who's had a student who, when I was there, had a student that had taken that class, that specific class, that specific level 1 handgun class 5 times. And I thought, based off his performance, I would say that probably now is wasting money on that 6th time he's likely going to take that class. I would recommend he go out, spend that money, and train with a different person. Because based off performance, I would say that it was rather crap performance, though that means it's not an admonishment of the instructor, it's an admonishment of the student who doesn't care enough about themselves to go and see if maybe they can learn the same information from someone else better. Does that make sense? So, I slowed down my speaking patterns by drinking water. Last week, I spoke too quickly and got through everything within 5 minutes of starting. This time I got to 39 minutes. Subtract 5 because, well, the microphone was muted at the very beginning. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to have to reread the Book of Five Rings again because I now have a third translation. So if anyone wants to know what my book of the week is, it's this, the Stephen F. Kaufman variation translation. So that's what I'm currently going to be working on. I like when I think I know everything and then something shows up and explains to me in very firm language that I do not, in fact, know anything. So, are there any questions, comments, concerns, or words of demoralizing nature? Got a thesaurus in my life, so now I can use bigger, better words. In local news, 23 Antifa members were arrested at Capitol Hill. And as I continue to learn more about that unfolding story, is a Christian group that was protesting abortion applied for a permit to protest at one park, were denied the permit for that park, and were sent to this other park called Cal Anderson Park, which is a very well-known liberal Antifa hotbed. Basically, conservatives should never go to that park and be conservative, otherwise you'll have Antifa people all over you like ants. So somebody who knew that said, I know, I'll send the Christians over to Antifa Thug Zone and see them get beat up. Except 23 of their number were arrested. We have yet to see if they'll be charged on anything, but it was cool to see them get pepper sprayed and beat up and thrown in handcuffs for once. So that was some local news. Also in local news, our taxes are just about to shoot up here in Washington. So my ability to stay here is not much longer. It's becoming financially untenable. So there's my announcement. I'm going to have to start a fucking GoFundMe at this rate with how high these taxes are fucking getting. Jeez, Lou. Whew. Do. Boom. That is my instructor piece. Something I wrote down about what it is exactly instructors do. Oh, shit. Come with me. I'm not going to Idaho, dude. I'm probably going to wind up farther south and east at this rate. Somewhere close to the Gulf of America so that I have a much cheaper shrimp exposure. So, and I would love to try gator again. I hear it's low fat, high protein. Can't live in Florida, man. I can't do Northeast Florida. I'm tempted, but Florida just ain't in my nature. I was thinking like Oklahoma, maybe Arkansas, maybe Kansas, Nebraska. I don't know. Somewhere where the cost of living is super low and all the California liberals aren't going. So Texas. Dear God, what happened, Texas? You kick those people out before they ruin your state. Yeah, my new governor. Uh, we're looking. We're just looking. Right now, as long as I can get like 300 acres, so I can have a farm, I will be a happy person. So I want me a farm. Have cows and chickens and all that stuff because I don't. I'm those of you who aren't aware, my wife is very much into that carnivore lifestyle. She's done all the research and all the knowledge and all the everything there is. Like every fucking time I talk to her, she's listening to a fucking podcast from yet another carnivore doctor talking about the preservatives and hormones and all the bullshit that's put into food. It's like, well, we gave this cow antibiotics. And you'd think that putting it in fire would have killed the antibiotic, but it didn't. Now it's in you. Uh, so I would like to have my own farm so that I know that what's in my food. That's where I want to be. So I want to sell this house for whatever the fuck it's worth, and then go be on a farm. I don't want to do anything crazy. I just want to farm and live a quiet life till I die. Selling unpasteurized milk and unpasteurized eggs. That's what I'm seeing, John. That's Oklahoma's got some pretty impressive bang for the buck too. It's the second lowest cost of living state in the union right now. Either won't get you started on that. I don't know what's in 2027. I stopped looking years into the future. I just started looking into tomorrow. I want farm life. I've done this. I'm disappointed because this is my home. I've got my chickens here, got my dogs here, got all my nice stuff. Cost of living is just. My governor Bob Ferguson. We got a 6% increase on taxes, or I'm sorry, on gas. So you know how all of you are enjoying low gas prices, like all your gas prices have been doing this. Whee! Yeah. Where's the camera? There's the camera. Whee! Right? All your gas prices doing that. Our gas prices are doing this. Yes, they just passed permit to purchase. It won't do fuck all to stop gun crime, but there it is nonetheless. Is hey, you got to have a permit to purchase guns now. You do know that where all these people get their guns is from dumb fucks who leave their shit in the cars, right? People who believe truck guns are a fucking thing and then come to Seattle, that's where the guns are. That's where they get guns. Truck guns aren't a fucking thing. There's the gun you have on you that should stay on you. Like if I'll tell you what, if Bob Ferguson, my governor, wanted to do something that would actually curb gun violence, he would ban those stupid fucking magnets that I keep seeing get advertised. For those of you who don't know, it'll be like this strip that you could mount to your fucking car, and you take your gun off because it's uncomfortable, and you stick it to the magnet in your car, boom, right that, and you get up and you walk away from your car, and you just leave your gun in your car. That's what's arming all these people. Permit to purchase isn't going to help anything, but banning those fucking magnets would. God, I fucking hate the gun magnets. If your holster sucks so much that your gun hurts you, you should probably buy a Green Force tactical holster, seeing as how John Thornton's here. You should buy a holster from him because I carry 2 fucking full-size Glocks on me and driving cars and shit like that. Never complain about discomfort or pain. And that was when I was a fat guy too. So still no complaints. So, if your holster sucks, it's probably because it's not a Green Force. You should fix yourself. Yes. And that's also where you ever wonder where all those people with the Glocks with the switches get their fucking Glocks with the switches? It's from your fucking car. The dumb motherfuckers who got like SIG stickered on their car, If I had $1 for every time I was in Seattle and I saw someone with SIG stickered on their car and then a busted out windshield, I'd be rich. I would be fucking rich because that's all the fucking time. I don't go to Seattle anymore because I don't want to get fucking mugged. But that's how that shit works. Like, anyone really fucking think that these dudes are filling out the 4473s necessary to buy those AR pistols that they keep showing up with? Come on. Come on. 300 acres, you'll be cussing the barbed wire by fifth acre. You don't know how I'll be, John. I got audio. I got the Audible audio books. If you saw me with talking to Gary, I got the Warhammer audio books. It'd be poop, and I'll just be gone and working forever. This is true, Eric. Green Force is gold. It's the only holster company I genuinely fucking trust. I'll buy others just because I for testing purposes. But if you're talking about you have to put your gun in it and trust your life, it's Green Force. There's no hesitation on that. Yeah, gun magnets. Yeah, it's nonstop up here. People think it's a fucking deterrent. It's not. It's an attractant. Gun stickers are not a fucking deterrent, and they don't prove you're tough. They prove you're stupid as fuck, and you got a gun in the car. And even if you don't have a fucking gun in the car, you're about to have your window smashed. Hydrate. It's important. Oh, man. I had enough viewers that Twitch is giving me the fucking bump your viewer bots. Awesome. So, yeah. And then we're also going to get an uptick in property taxes and income taxes. Also, there's now what's called the joy tax in this state. Good evening. You're going to have to rewatch all this. John Thornton eats corn the long way and also made me a holster for a Ruger Super 10.5-inch barrel. I don't know anything about the way John Thornton eats corn. I don't even eat corn. So there, that's my 2 cents on corn. Yeah, in case y'all were curious what a joy tax is, in this state they're going to tax chew, cigarettes even more, Zyn, those nicotine pouches, and alcohol even more. Don't worry. In case you're wondering, if I develop a fentanyl addiction, they'll still give me that for free. Yes, that's still ongoing in this fucking state, the free fentanyl. So, God forbid we stop the free fentanyl in this state, but all the pollen's active in this fucking state. So, yep, that's what's going on here. So, if anyone knows where I can get like 300 acres for not a whole fucking lot, text it to me. So, but yeah, it's just too expensive. And the fun part is I know for a fact that by this time next year, all the people who voted for Bob Ferguson are going to move the fuck out and then move straight over to Texas, because that's what California's doing. Stop voting for socialist liberal policies and then moving to conservative states when it gets expensive. It's not complicated. So, yeah, there you have it. Let's see. Let's look at comments. Because the bitch that owns Epi is a piece of shit who tried to pull the Martin Shkreli approach. She made a huge donation to the FDA to suppress the great value version of the EpiPen. And when the FDA did that, because it's a corrupt piece of shit organization that doesn't do fuck for anybody, um, she jacked up the prices for the EpiPen. So that's why. Whereas the people who own Narcan, the state pays for it, so they don't care what the price is. And for those of you who don't know, Martin Shkreli is the piece of shit who fucking raised the prices on AIDS medication to an exponential amount, even though it was proven to be quite beneficial. Because some people just want to go down as a villain in life and not a good person. I get it, it's his shit. He can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. Doesn't mean you're a decent person, and doesn't mean I want to talk to you. Hey, Eric, don't tell them not to move here. Because eventually, since we all have to fucking pick up and leave, they can have my house. Pay me what the state thinks it's worth. Because that's what they tax me at. So yeah, John, that's why Epi costs that much. Inhalers too. I just had to fight with insurance for my son's seizure medication because it's a controlled substance and they need verification that he still needs it. Yes, he's still alive, so of course he still needs it, and hence why I have the prescription and doctor's note for it. But by all means, continue to argue with me. So that's what's all fun up in this state. Don't come to Washington. That's the long and short of it. This is a shitty state. I'm pretty sure everything east of the Cascades is actually about to break off and join Idaho. So Idaho is about to become much, much larger because this shit sucks. The voting block of Washington breaks down into 3 total blocks. That's Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane. That's where everybody fucking lives, is those 3 cities. And what the fuck? Jay Inslee adjusted our voting system so that the electors had to side with the popular. Hey, not my problem. Not my problem. Whenever I go to Seattle, I got problem solvers. I don't have any fucking problems when I go to Seattle. And I don't go to Capitol Hill, like, ever. That whole place could catch fire and burn for all I give a fuck. Which, depending on how Carmelo Anthony's trial turns out, Seattle might go up in smoke. Because that's what those people are going to be very fucking upset about. Yeah, in case you hadn't heard, Carmelo Anthony, the young man who stabbed the other man in the heart, he has been charged formally with murder in the 1st degree and is being charged as an adult. So get ready for the O.J. Simpson trial part 2. So that'll be cool to see how that turns out. I'm sure everyone will behave themselves and will be calm, cool, collected, and with reserve. Never mind the fact that there are still people out there that think Kyle Rittenhouse shot and killed 3 black people. You know, when people ask me, do you think it's a race issue? No. No, it's not a race issue. It's an IQ issue. People are just really fucking stupid and just keep getting fucking stupider. Like, really fucking stupid. I think I read somewhere that the Bible requires a 5th grade. Is it written at a 5th grade reading level? And then I saw the recent high school graduates of New York City can not read at a 4th grade reading level. And when you look at the Constitution and Bill of Rights, those are written at a 4th grade reading level, which means verbatim that grown adults in New York City cannot read their constitutional rights. Literally. They literally cannot read that shit. I don't know. I think that's something you should be able to cite off the top of your head, like the first 10 amendments. I'm pretty sure that's something you should just be able to cite off the top of your head when you leave school. It's just my 2 cents on the deal. So it's definitely a fucking IQ problem. All right. So, any questions, comments, concerns, or demoralizing phrases? Yeah. So, I'm going to brag. It's not often that I do that, but I am going to brag. Um, my son is spending time learning about the fall of Carthage. In fact, a fantastic YouTube channel is Oversimplified on YouTube. It's a little history. That's what this little guy is. This is Hannibal Barca, and that's what my son is learning about. And he learned about the end of the first Punic War. Rome basically held Carthage hostage. Said, "You owe us all this money for this war that you fought in, and since we won, this is what you owe." It's an insurmountable amount of money, and it's not doable. Basically, a first world nation into a third world nation overnight. And so the that's what leads to the creation of Rome's newest problem, Hannibal Barca, from his father Hamilcar Barca. And so when I talked to him, I asked him, "Do you notice anything similar in that?" And he sits there and he thinks for like all of 10 minutes and says, "Yes, it's a it's exactly what happened with the Germans after World War One." I said, "Do tell." He said, "Well, Germany was a first world nation into a third world nation. They fought in a war, they lost, and they were forced to pay for it all. And then some crazy person who becomes the biggest nightmare for that country uh, is created out of that squalor." I was like, "So you're are you telling me that there's a parallel?" He goes, "Yeah, there's a parallel between Carthage and Germany, Hannibal, and because I'm on 3 different live stream, the no German, who's not even German, he's Austrian, but the no Austrian." This is something that come to find out that they're not teaching in high schools anymore. They're not teaching in any schools. They're not teaching about parallels in history, and they're not teaching about Hannibal Barca, the guy who brought Rome to its knees. They're not teaching any of this shit. So I get to brag about that. My son knows about Hannibal Barca and and historical parallels between Carthage and Germany. I'm pretty proud of that moment. So it's not really me bragging about myself, it's me bragging about him. So there you have it. So get your kids out of public school, I guess, is the long and short of it. Um, because you can control what your kids learn, and so you're Tiny Mustache Man. Thank you, Tiny Mustache Man. Charlie Chaplin, evil Charlie Chaplin. There you go. Evil Charlie Chaplin. Um, so I'm sure with this crew, I don't need to explain why. But here's a fun little thing about the state of Washington is they just passed the what is it? The children's right, parents' right. I can't fucking remember what it's called. Long story short is if your child, and my child has a hard time with her pronouns right now because she's 3. If your child believes that they are of the opposite sex, they are able to get that without the parents' permission because the school is legally allowed to abduct your child, not tell you anything about anything, and help them get that gender affirming care. Um, so yeah, yet another reason to leave this fucking state. And also another reason to keep your kids out of public school. So I don't know if anyone's heard those rumors. It's absolutely the law in this state. It's absolutely bullshit. So, but if you do know any crazed liberals who do believe in that kind of stuff, by all means, send them this way. This state has that crap. So yeah, more reasons. One, the Department of Education has failed horrifically since its foundation in the 70s. Everyone's just gotten stupider. Public education system is, and here's another fucking thing. These are just basically prisons. Public school is basically a prison, especially in the cities around here. You're all adults ever seem to do is compliment on. I'm already there's a reason why my kids aren't in public school, John, and it's because I'm already a fucking problem, and I would be a much worse problem. But around here, all adults ever seem to do is just tell me that my child is a very well behaved and respectful young man, and to which I always say, are they not all? Should not all children be acting in such a way? Uh, it's because he's not in public school, so he's not learning social cues from the socially inept that are in his age group. So, something to examine. So, I have been doing this for an hour and 5 minutes. This is my longer one. Made it through everything I wanted to make it through. Tell you get your kids out of public school. Washington sucks. Be detached from desire your whole life long. I succumbed not to greed my entire life. So, and the value of training with alternate instructors. You should train. If you haven't, you need to change. If you only train with one person, you need to train with somebody else. Go train with someone else. If you're one of those guys who lives real close to TAC Response, they got like guest instructors all the fucking time. There's no reason not to be. And if they have John Farnham there, you need to be training with John Farnham. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you haven't trained with John Farnham, you're wrong. Go fix yourself. So, all right. Well, that's all I got. So I'm off to go have dinner because it's 6. All right. Y'all have a good one.